Hi, I wanted to take just a few minutes to talk to you about your rhetorical analysis essay, which is essay 1 for this term. You are going to apply a multi-stage composing and revising process to produce your essay, which means that you are going to go through the full writing process, which will involve pre-writing and outlining, a rough draft, peer review, revising and editing based on that peer review, and then finalizing your draft for submission. I encourage you to make sure that you watch this full video. There's lots of information and little tidbits that you might not get just by reading the instructions. However, if you listen to the full video and have questions, or you read over the assignment and have questions, just let me know. I'm always happy to help. So here's the assignment. Advertisements are designed to persuade and convince a select audience to purchase a product. You will select a commercial that aired during the 2024 Super Bowl and write a 1,000-word essay that takes a position on how well the ad convinces the intended audience to buy the product, use the service, etc., through the use of the rhetorical appeals. To find one of the Super Bowl commercials from 2024, you can go to YouTube or Google and search 2024 commercials or Super Bowl commercials 2024. The commercial must be from this year's Super Bowl. That is a requirement. If you go back further, your essay will get a 0 if you submit on a previous Super Bowl, a commercial from a previous Super Bowl. So understand that that is required. To be clear, you will address how the ad uses logos, ethos, and pathos to persuade its target audience to take a position and how effective it is. You will also provide an in-text citation when you refer to your commercial. So here's what I really want to dive into here to make sure that you understand. Your essay should focus on who the target audience is, how that's made clear through the commercial, and then how the commercial uses ethos, how it uses logos, and how it uses pathos. It must use all three, and you must be able to explain how it's using all three. So pick a commercial that will do that for you, that will help you do that. Okay. Where to begin? So you should consider each of the following concepts as you're analyzing your ad and composing your essay. So the first is the rhetorical effect of images, which is simply how images are impacting us emotionally or intellectually, how they make us feel things, whether it's being repelled by something, or evoking our sympathies, or triggering our fears, or calling forth a web of interconnected ideas, memories, and associations. One of photography and video's purposes is to create images that have designs on us that urge us to believe ideas, buy things, go places, or otherwise alter our views or behaviors. The next concept is visual literacy. When you analyze images or video, in order to understand their persuasive power, you are developing a skill called visual literacy, which refers to your awareness of the importance of visual communication and your ability to interpret or make meaning of the images and graphics. The ad analysis assignment will help enhance your visual literacy. And then we have writing to analyze. When you do this, you apply your own critical thinking to a puzzling object or data and offer your own ideas. Your goal is to raise interesting questions about the object being analyzed, questions that perhaps other viewers of the ad have not thought to ask, and then to provide tentative answers to those questions, supported by points and particulars derived from your own close examination. Synonyms for writing to analyze might be writing to interpret, clarify, or explain. To be clear here, writing to analyze, there's all this topic of like raising questions and then answering them. In your paper, you're not going to say, and what does this mean? And then answer that question. You're just going to get to this is what this means because of this. So just to be clear there, you don't want your paper full of tons of questions that you're turning around and answering. All right. The next piece, approach. When you analyze and critique a commercial, you focus on the images and the text, or the dialogue. It may be verbal text, giving them the same close attention that an art critic gives a painting or a football coach gives a game film. This close attention can be with the grain, noting the effectiveness of the ad, rhetorical strategies, or against the grain, discussing what is ineffective or problematic about these strategies. An analysis might point out both the strengths of and problems with the ad's rhetorical strategies. Based on your analysis, you will create a thesis and support it with several points. You will develop support for your points. This will be the meat of your paper, several paragraphs that develop your analysis so readers understand how you arrived at your thesis. You explain your points by drawing details from your ads. Here's the thing. I said this earlier. I want to reiterate it here. Your essay must show how the ad uses ethos, pathos, and logos to convince the commercial's targeted audience. Even if you go into some of the shortcomings of the ad, that's acceptable, but you need to be able to say that it's doing all of these things and you know who the audience is. You can make the case that yes, they're trying to use logos in this way, but it's not that effective. But you have to be able to show that they are, in fact, using logos. They are, in fact, building their credibility using ethos. They are, in fact, playing on the emotions through pathos. If your commercial doesn't have those pieces or you cannot identify them, you need to choose a commercial that you can identify them, because you are required to show evidence of ethos, pathos, and logos, as well as who the audience is. So know that this is very important. If you can't do that, it will not be acceptable. All right, the next piece, analyze. In order to analyze the ad and arrive at a position on how it attempts to persuade its viewers, carefully examine the following aspects: whom the ad targets, how the ad employs ethos, pathos, and logos, if the ad is effective in targeting the audience and convincing them, how visual elements of the ad are used to appeal to the values of the audience, the values that the audience considers important, and what are those values, whether or not it's appropriate or worthwhile to appeal to those values, what the advertiser is showing you or possibly not showing you, ways in which reality has been altered in order to make the image more appealing, how the text of the ad relates to the message being communicated, what type of responses the ad elicits, fear, guilt, pity, what assumptions the creators of the ad seem to have about the viewers of the ad. Then, once you've kind of figured out what you want to say, you have to determine how you want to present it. So you want to think about the parts of your paper. What does the reader need to know before you launch into your thesis? What background information might your readers need? Where will you locate your thesis? What will the rest of your paper do? How will you end your paper? You need to consider your organization. I'm providing you two approaches for organization. You are required to use one or the other. You can choose either one, but you must fall in line with one or the other. Your first option, you will have an introductory paragraph where you provide whatever background you need. Your thesis will be your final sentence in your introductory paragraph. Then you will get into your body paragraphs. For this organization pattern, your first body paragraph will identify who the intended audience is and how the ad makes it clear that's who the intended audience is. Then paragraphs 2, 3, and 4 will each tackle one of the rhetorical appeals. So you will have one paragraph on ethos, one on pathos, and one on logos. You will not talk about multiple appeals in the same paragraph. You must have one paragraph about each. That would be an acceptable way to approach this essay. You'll have a concluding paragraph, tie things up. Very good. Or you can use approach 2. I'll be entirely honest with you. Approach 1 for Comp 1 students is more effective. Students who use approach 1 typically score higher than students who use approach 2, because lots of times their work becomes a little bit jumbled in the organization. But this can be an effective approach if your commercial necessitates it. So in this, you'll have that same introductory paragraph. You'll include your background information. You'll narrow down to your thesis as that final sentence of your introductory paragraph. Then you'll get to your body paragraphs here. What you're doing here, because you're required for body paragraphs, is you would have one on ethos, one on pathos, and one on logos, and then a second paragraph on a rhetorical appeal that needs more than one paragraph. So maybe you need 2 pathos paragraphs or 2 logos paragraphs or 2 ethos because it's so heavily used in the ad. Lots of times when students use this, it's either because there's lots of logos, so there's lots of facts and statistics, or there's lots of pathos, a ton of emotion. You would pair those 2 paragraphs together. So in this organizational pattern, let's pretend that you were going to have 2 paragraphs about pathos. You would have a paragraph about ethos, a paragraph about logos, a paragraph 1 about pathos, paragraph 2 about pathos. Or you could do logos, then ethos, then pathos, pathos. It doesn't matter what order you do it in, but you want to make sure that if you have 2 paragraphs about the same rhetorical appeal, that those are paired together, they are consecutive. So paragraph 1 about it, paragraph 2 about it. That way, organizationally, your essay makes some sense. And then you'll have your conclusion paragraph. I mentioned that you could, you would do ethos, logos, then your 2 pathos, but it could be that you start with the appeal that you're doing the 2 paragraphs for. So if that's, let's in this scenario pretend it's logos, you could have paragraph 1 logos, paragraph 2 logos, paragraph 3 is ethos, paragraph 4 is pathos. That would be an acceptable way to do that for your body paragraphs as well. Some perspective. Although you include a link to the ad or a picture of the ad when you submit your essay, you will begin your pre-writing with a detailed written description of your ad, composed as if your reader cannot see the ad. By taking the time to complete this important step, you will generate many observations and details about the ad that will help you analyze it. In the paper, your description of the ad should be vivid enough to paint a picture. The reader should be able to visualize the ad without continually referring to it. As you present your ideas, take an objective position. The reader knows you are stating what you think because you wrote the paper. Therefore, you should not use "I think that," "I believe," "I feel that," or "in my opinion," simply because it isn't necessary. It makes your writing wordy, it waters down your writing, and it's implied. Your reader knows it. You're just wasting space and time when you do that. You should avoid using "you" in your papers unless you actually are directly addressing a specific reader, which is not the case for this assignment. You should decide who it is that you represents and replace the "you" with a more specific appropriate noun or noun phrase. So it could be students, teachers, adults. For this essay, the "you" would likely be viewers or the audience. So that will more adequately identify who it is the "you" of the commercial is targeting and the "you" of your paper that you're talking about. Thesis statement. Your thesis statement should be an analytical thesis, not a descriptive thesis. In other words, it should not be what the ad is doing, but how the ad is doing it. Support for sources. For this essay, the only source you will have is the commercial. You are not allowed under any circumstance to use sources other than the commercial. If you do, you will earn a 0 on the assignment. Requirements. Length. A minimum of 1,000 words, a maximum of 1,500 words. At least 6 paragraphs. An intro, at least 4 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. You are required MLA format and a works cited page, which will be your final page of your paper. You will only have your advertisement cited on that because you will not be using any other sources. If you were using outside sources, those would need to be there, but you are not allowed to use outside sources for this essay. So it's just going to be the commercial. And then you must include a copy or a link to the advertisement with your essay. Your works cited page, if you're citing it correctly, will include that URL to the YouTube video with the commercial. So that'll be in there. Any missing components to this assignment, no works cited page, no ad, etc., will have a negative impact on your overall grade for the assignment. I provided due dates, which you can have a look at, as well as sample essays. Each of the sample essays show essays that worked effectively, but they're student work. So while I encourage you to have a look at them, see how they're organizing their paper, really do have a good look because they did well. It is student work. There were different assignment requirements, things like that. So they might not be exactly what your assignment is calling for. You wouldn't, for example, want to mimic their wording because that would be a form of plagiarism. Or if they only have 3 body paragraphs, it could be that in the semester they wrote their paper, I didn't require 4 body paragraphs. Maybe I only required 5, and that's a requirement change. So you want to use their papers as examples of work that has been done well, but you don't want to totally mimic their papers. However, make sure you read over those sample essays. Have a look at them. See what students have done before that has been successful. They will be an excellent guide for you as you move through this process. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have questions, need help, please don't hesitate to reach out.